Well, the United States view is that our goal is and must remain the soonest possible establishment of an independent Palestinian state. And we looked at the resolution in the light of whether it would advance that goal or harden positions and set it back. As I've said today in the Security Council, and as President Obama has said on many occasions, the United States strongly opposes continued Israeli settlement activity. So our objection was not on that point. On that point, we were united with the rest of the Council. The question for us was, would this resolution and its adoption advance that goal of achieving an independent Palestinian state, or cause one or both parties to dig in and make it even harder to resume the very necessary process of direct negotiations?
But what else are the Palestinians supposed to do? U.S. efforts on peacemaking have hit a brick wall. If the Palestinians can't rely on the United States, why isn't the United Nations the right place for them to go?
Because the United Nations can't create an independent state of Palestine. It won't happen. It has to be negotiated between the two parties. There are issues of borders and issues of Jerusalem and difficult issues that divide the two parties that can only be achieved through negotiations. We can have declaration after declaration, but at the end of the day, they don't create facts on the ground.
But why veto, though, a policy?
Excuse me.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Our aim is to achieve the goal of an independent Palestine as swiftly as possible. President Obama came to the United Nations last year and envisioned achieving that goal by September 2011. That can only happen if the parties go back to the negotiating table, stop using declaratory attempts to divert attention, and do the tough business of negotiating.
But you say that the United States wants to create an independent Palestinian state. There isn't even a peace process right now. There aren't even peace talks. The current talks have hit a wall because of the settlements. So why can't the United States come out and say that these settlements are illegal and demand a halt to them rather than partial temporary freezes, and then perhaps there might be a possibility of the two sides getting around the table and having an honest discussion with the United States as an honest broker?
Because the United States has, since for 6 administrations, been very clear that we do not accept the legitimacy of continued settlement activity. There's no question about that. We have been clear and unequivocal. But the question is, if you simply try to make declaratory statements, will that lead to the halt of settlement activity? No. In fact, it might even encourage increased settlement activity. The goal is to achieve a viable, independent, contiguous, democratic Palestinian state.
But as a result of this veto, do you think that's what's going to happen, that there will be increased settlement activity now?
I think that there would, in fact, perhaps have been more settlement activity had the resolution been adopted.
But there is a big difference. I mean, you say that you use the word illegitimacy. There's a big difference between calling something illegitimate and calling something illegal. I mean, the illegality of the settlements has been recognized in previous resolutions. So why doesn't the Obama administration see eye to eye on this issue with the rest of the international community?
This is not the view of the Obama administration. This is the view of the United States. We do not and have not for 30 years accepted the legitimacy of Israeli settlement activity.
Hello everyone, welcome to Global Government News. Today is Tuesday, February 22nd, 2011, and I'm Darko. Listeners, please check out my website at www.ggnonline.com. That's ggnonline.com. I just posted a poll there today. That video with Susan Rice, hopefully that didn't bore you too much, but that Israeli settlement thing is a pretty big deal over there, and it'd be nice to. It was just nice to kind of see what the hell is actually going on and what the holdup is as far as passing that resolution. So there you have it. She basically said that that wasn't the view of Obama, it was the view of the United States. In other words, it was the view of the United States, the corporation, the bank account of the United States of America, not the people themselves. And not Obama, who represents them, because he doesn't represent them, and not Obama because he's a puppet. So there, yeah, that's pretty much it. We have this article here. We're going to start off with high winds, heavy dust storms close Israeli airports, and it says heavy winds pushing tons of dust enveloped much of Israel Sunday morning, causing disruptions at several airports and airfields. And look at this. It says here, Israel silent as Iranian ships transit Suez Canal. Israeli leaders maintain a tense silence on Tuesday over reports that 2 Iranian Navy ships have passed through the Suez Canal and entered the Mediterranean en route to Syria, a move previously described by officials here as a provocation. Then you have this, Israel eyes Suez Canal trip of Iran warships with worry. Iran's first attempt in decades to send warships through the Suez Canal into the Med on Europe's and NATO's southern flank could further destabilize the Middle East, a region already reeling from an unprecedented wave of anti-government rebellions. And I was thinking about this recently. How come, why is it that Iran is praising all these revolutions? They're supposed to be anti-West and all that, and yet the West is, basically promoting the revolutions, taking out these dictators that are anti-West, and, bringing in, quote, democracy. And so I'm just surprised to see that Iran is supporting that when they're supposed to be anti-West, which kind of makes you wonder or think about how or what Iran really is and who is really running that country. We know that there were CIA coups and that going on with the Shah and that and back in the day, but we're going to keep moving here. Iran warships to begin Suez Canal passage on Tuesday, and then Israel, Iranian naval vessels, major provocation as we covered. Keep moving. Iran to step up anti-drug measures. So they got a little drug war themselves. Iran's Interior Minister, Mohammed Nahar, says the government is leading a comprehensive campaign against drug trafficking into the country. Quote, a more serious action on fighting drug trafficking into the country is being pursued. And then we have U.S. vetoes UN resolution on Israeli settlements. That's what we just covered. Foreign Secretary William Hague has called on Israel and Palestinians to return to the negotiation table after the U.S. vetoed a draft United Nations Security Council resolution condemning the building of settlements on occupied land. And then we'll have this, UN slams Israel West Bank demolitions. Then we have this story, Bahrain security forces fire on defiant protesters. Security forces opened fire Friday on Bahraini protesters for a second straight day, wounding at least 50 people. Bahrain opposition plots strategy before talks. Bahrain opposition plots strategy before talks. Unions suspend general strike. Bahrain's opposition wants the nation's rulers to guarantee they will back up their conciliatory words with actions, a Shiite leader said Sunday, as he and other activists weighed the regime's offer for talks after nearly a week of protests and deadly clashes that have divided the Gulf nation. Now we have Bahrain opposition protests resume. So they're back at it. Bahrain unrest. Thousands joined anti-government protests. This is from the 22nd of February. Tens of thousands of Bahrainians have joined an anti-government rally in the capital of Manama. Quote, the people want the fall of the regime. Protesters chanted on the first organized rally in the kingdom since protests erupted last week. And we have Bahrainians continue call for democracy, and they're going to get it. Actually, they're not. They're going to get the same thing we have over here. It says in Bahrain, Shiites turn out to protest. Then we have Friday of Rage across Yemen leaves 4 dead. And it says here another day of protest continued from overnight with government bashers and supporters out in full force, waving flags, chanting, and busy burying the dead from earlier clashes. And it says here, it was a 9th straight day of the protests in Yemen, inspired by the uprising in Egypt and Tunisia. Demonstrators are calling for the ouster president, Ali Abdullah Saleh, a key U.S. ally in fighting Al-Qaeda terrorists who has ruled the country for 32 years. And then we have clashes hit Yemen as protests swell. And police crackdown kills 22 in Yemen. Then we have Yemen Saleh says he won't be forced out by, quote, anarchy. Anarchy, is that what that is? All right, we're going to move on here. Ivory Coast police opened fire on crowd Witnesses say security forces fired on protesters for the second consecutive day in Ivory Coast's biggest city following a call for Egypt-style uprising to depose sitting President Laurent Gbagbo. And like I said last time, if you're eating chocolate, you better feel guilty because you're supporting a dictator. Moroccan king will not cede to, I'm being sarcastic of course, cede to demagoguery. Morocco's King Mohammed said he will not cede to demagoguery a day after thousands of Moroccans took to the street to demand he gives up some of his powers to a newly elected government, which will of course again be backed by the U.S. and Israel and the U.K. and basically the world powers that be. Italians stage anti-Berlusconi protests. Again, hundreds of Italians have taken to the streets in northern city of Parma to call on the Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi to step down over sexual scandals. Belarusian president says ready to use army to introduce order. Rail strike causes chaos in Germany. A nationwide strike by German train drivers has caused chaos during the morning rush hour, triggering numerous cancellations and delays. Dresden neo-Nazi rally turns violent. There's actually a video here. The link will be posted. You should check that out. There were supposed to be like thousands of them, but there was only like 300 to 500 of the neo-Nazis out there protesting basically over Dresden, which was just a horrific bombing that just killed a lot of people, a lot of German civilians, pretty much when the war was already over. Said Thai-Cambodia border issues. Thai foreign minister seeks resolution through bilateral talks. On Sunday, the Thai foreign minister said the border dispute with Cambodia should be solved at a bilateral level. And you're going to keep moving here. And it says here are the complete odds on which Mideast dictator falls next. And it says who's going to collapse next. And it says Libya, Gaddafi odds fall to 75% from 86% after a defiant speech. Bahrain, Al-Khalifa, 55%. Yemen, Ali Abdullah Saleh, 49%. Iran, Ahmadinejad, 60% or 16%. Iran, Al-Khamenei, 15%. And then let's check it out. It says here, Morocco, reforms are already lined up. That's the first one. And it says Jordan, King Abdullah tries to get ahead of the crisis. Then we have Syria, president pushing for reform already. And then we have Saudi Arabia, massive military strength, maybe enough to quell social dissent. And also their leader is also sick there. Iran, could things kick off again in Tehran? Well, it just depends on whether the CIA gets a successful coup or uprising going, a color revolution. Libya, time may be running out for Gaddafi. Then we have Yemen, serious unemployment problem, and an Al-Qaeda or Al-Qaeda threat, right? Pakistan, democracy under threat as state remains unstable. Oh, they have democracy there. Oh, okay. And, the thing about Pakistan is that there's a lot of people that are pissed off at the U.S. Because we're supposedly helping them, but then we're sitting there bombing them on a daily basis, killing women and children. I'm not joking. They are. And yet they'll call them militants in Yahoo and AP News. And then just recently, they have a CIA operative that they're holding as well. The next one up is Vietnam. A sharp recession could lead to opposition against communist rule. Venezuela has Hugo Chavez outstayed his welcome. 11, China. Could a severe economic downturn derail the Chinese regime? And then think all that matters is a surge in food prices. And that's right. They're rising really fast right now. Afghan soldier fires on German troops, killing 3 German soldiers just back from patrol. Had already started shedding their heavy body armor when shots rang out Friday at their coalition base in northern Afghanistan. An Afghan soldier, a man they thought was on their side, was spraying them with bullets at close range. Sounds like the CIA, the attack on the CIA headquarters by Afghan, who they said they trusted. Yeah, the same thing in Afghanistan as Pakistan. A lot of those people hate Americans, and they realize that we're not there to help them. Says tensions rise over Afghan civilian deaths. Says an investigation into claims that international troops killed scores of civilians in northwest Afghanistan escalated into a feud Tuesday between President Hamid Karzai and senior U.S. military officials, who cited a report that Afghan parents have been known to discipline children by burning their hands and feet. Says Karzai spokesman described comments made by Rear Admiral Smith, Director of Communications for the U.S.-led coalition, also known as International Security Assistance Force, as being outrageous, insulting, and racist, and he demanded a clarification. And, I don't know who the U.S. is to criticize. I mean, I just read an article in my last video where there was an individual, a teenager, who killed his mom with a hatchet because she turned off his PlayStation and took it from him. So, first U.S. drone attack in Pakistan in weeks kills 7. A U.S. drone strike killed at least 7 people. Those are people. Yeah, okay. I just want to make sure they're not just militants, because if they're militants, they're not people, right? On Monday, in a tribal region along Pakistan's western border, and it says here, arrested U.S. official is actually a CIA contractor. It's too bad because I reported on that about, a week ago? This is GGN, and I'm Darko.